We're recording. Hi, Maura.
Hi, how's it going, Bill?
Good. This is Plague Pals. I'm Bill Corbett here with Maura Quint. And Maura, um, you had the idea before I pressed record. I was going to say before we went on the air, but that gave it a little too much, I don't know,
Wink to
officialness,
it, yeah.
a
We're
little,
very
a little
official.
too much effort. Maybe we'd start with a couple of things that kind of went right this week, a couple of wins as you put them.
Yeah, I wasn't even just thinking of this week, but just in general. I mean, because we're seeing just such nonstop terrible stuff over and over and over.
Yeah.
And I don't know about you, but like my feed is just a constant scroll of like, oh, police ran over more protesters and the Republicans have decided to defund joy and like just anything like that they can possibly do. That's all I see.
And
So
I'm sorry
uh,
because I probably contribute to that on your timeline. Like, what
I'm
happened
the one, I'm
now
like,
that's bad?
share, 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 share. That's all I'm doing. So yeah, I'm in no help. But some good stuff has happened. Like there is
Yeah.
progress being made. I mean, to my knowledge, we haven't like solved everything yet, and we haven't ended racism or anything. Or but
Give
maybe
it a
next
week or
week.
two. Give it a week or
There's
two. On the
there's
way.
time.
The
But I
Democrats
mean,
took a knee after all and put on kente cloth. So we're halfway there. Sorry. See, look at me
they're
dragging it into the weeds already.
but they're so good at like just creating photos that can be used against them forever. Like they're so
Oh
good at it.
God, I
They
know.
just love it.
But
They're like,
you had some positive momentum going, and
I
I
did it.
threw a stink bomb in the middle of it. So sorry.
No, it's fine. I pulled up like a lot of people have been tracking all of the potential wins and stuff. So I pulled up one of them, and I was just going to go over a couple of things. I mean, this started.
Before you start, can I ask you what
Yeah.
is your or this person's criteria for a win? Like just generally
I,
like good shit politically or socially?
Yeah, anything
Okay.
where I think it's that anything where we see that the protests have led to an
Okay.
actual achievement of some sort, something that wouldn't have happened without these uprisings taking place.
Yeah.
Which I mean, the first thing being, of course, the cops who are responsible for murdering George Floyd being arrested or being
Hmm.
being potentially charged there. That's like just basic. That wouldn't have happened without these protests, right?
No
And
doubt.
which is
There's just no
absurd,
doubt.
but
I mean, again, I'm going to rain on this parade very quickly and
oh yeah,
interject
go
that
for it.
yesterday I saw the initial like press release that came out of the Minneapolis police about the incident.
Yeah.
And it is just a tissue of fucking lies. I
Oh
mean,
God.
and it was only because some people had their phones out that
That's right.
anything else happened. It was like during this, it's just that anodyne language of like during this completely neutral thing where no police acted in any way except, either
Right.
didn't act at all or acted perfectly normally. This man had a medical issue and died. The medical issue
That's
was a
right.
guy's knee on his throat but anyway, we all
It's
know.
amazing how, according to the police, so many people just like spontaneously combust, I suppose. There's
In
just like
custody.
they were involved in some sort of a situation happened. It's like they're constantly living in a world where there's just like black holes open up and like, oh, well, I don't know. Looks like it just swallowed up something. Oh, but
Some bad stuff is going down. Where am I? And I'm like just like eating a burrito over here. Am I involved? I'm officer involved. Am I?
the
All
police
right.
are the most confused group of all time. They just
Yeah.
have no idea how anything has ever happened. If the police were sitting under the tree when the apple fell, it would just be like, I can't possibly fathom. I don't even know where this apple may have come from. I don't know where this tree. Is this a tree? I don't know. I was
Is
involved
it
with an incident where they were sitting.
is it an officer involved apple assault? Um, yeah,
Oh,
no object permanence whatsoever with that group. Anyway, you were
no,
starting to talk about good stuff. I
I
cannot
was.
help
So
myself. It's
weird.
awful.
Police are basically the infant babies who are somehow murdering people as well. It's amazing.
Blam, blam, blam. Ah! Sorry. Please continue with your excellent list.
No. I mean, this has been good for me, at least. I would add this to the list.
Okay.
Officer babies. So we have the arrest of at least a few police officers, and throughout the country, there have been a couple of other incidents. Luckily, we're caught on camera, and police have actually been being reprimanded occasionally. Not nearly all, not nearly 10%, but still more than ever would have happened before. We're also seeing statues and murals and these massive icons to racist heroes being removed, whether it's by the actual cities themselves or just people who have had a fucking enough and decide to decapitate Christopher Columbus. Which
I love that. That seems even better in a way than tearing him down. Just like, off with its head.
Leave him there with the fucking head off. That's right. As like a symbol in the way that people would like hang out, on the edge of the town, put the bodies there so that everyone knows, don't come over here, don't fuck with us, because you'll be gone.
Mm-hmm.
But that's good. The former Mayor Rizzo in Philly, that big mural got all painted over, which at the start of this being in Pennsylvania, there were lots of calls for that to go. And so many people within the protest movement saying like, no, it'll never happen. They love him too much. It'll never happen.
Was he mayor during the infamous MOVE bombings of the 1980s?
Yeah, I don't know.
Those?
I don't know enough about him really,
Okay.
but I know about the MOVE bombings. I'm not sure if he was there for that. I know he said a lot of racist shit. But I'm not.
He's an awful man. But yeah, good.
I wish I could be like, yes, this was a terrible incident. Here's a terrible person. They must be connected. But unfortunately, no. He could have existed at any time because it's just so constant.
Yeah,
so.
They are thematically and spiritually connected, for sure.
That's right. That's a very good way to put it. We saw in, what was the university in your town who cut off their contract with the police, I believe. I can't think of the school right now.
Oh, it's the University of Minnesota. It's kind of the whole big state system here. And I would add Minneapolis Public Schools, Minneapolis Parks Department, and there is like a parks police too. So that's more of a loophole. But yeah, I mean, they are non grata in a lot of places increasingly here. And it's like it's just had this momentum. It just picked up steam so quickly.
It's fantastic. And it's not just there. Portland, Oregon, Portland schools districts have also discontinued the presence of any sort of police officers or armed police in their schools. So it's going beyond, not that Portland is necessarily the end all be all, but hey, they'll take it where we can get it. Like,
Portlandia.
all right, let's keep going. I don't know. Maybe they'll put a chicken in the halls to monitor. That's fine. We saw Metro Boston ordered that buses will not be transporting police to protests or will take protesters to police or prisoners. We saw that within a couple of different transportation departments within various cities, which is, I love that sort of solidarity. It's amazing.
Yeah.
Fantastic. And it maybe because I'm so jaded and cynical, like I don't expect that. I don't expect to see solidarity. So it's like, I don't know. It's very exciting to me when I see it. And then of course the big disbanding the police that you have again within your world there. That's massive.
Yes.
That's
thank you very much. I just marched myself down there and I said, look,
I'm a white man, so you're going to have to listen to me, right? Here's what needs to happen.
Perk up. Look at this. Look.
No hair. Obviously on the right side of things.
I tell you, man, it has been amazing to be here. It's been heartrending in so many ways. But it's just one of those moments in history when you're near something that is both horrible and quickly inspiring. I mean, I can't think of many like that where I've been, and I'm not really even in the mix compared to some of my friends. I mean, but yeah, the thing with the police they haven't really been disbanded yet, first of all.
Right.
I mean, it was basically an announcement that the city council has an absolute unvetoable.
Yeah, I love
Close
saying
enough.
veto proof
Veto
anywhere.
proof,
That's like,
better, thank you.
yeah,
Majority to proceed with, defunding and disbanding the police, and they're using that
yeah.
language. And of course, that whole defund police thing, which I absolutely support. I love how concise it is. I love how it rankles the right people. And I'm not just into, I mean, I am into rankling people just for rankling people, but to be honest,
No, it's good
but
to be fair there. Yeah.
I do think it's also very effective as a way. And I think it, all the kind of Chicken Little stuff that we've seen from people, it's like, that's terrible. It doesn't poll well. It's like, well, 4 or 5 years ago, Black Lives Matter was absolute poison as a phrase to
Right.
white people in general, but to the Democratic Party specifically, and of course the Republican Party. That's like saying, kill white grandmas or something to them, because that's
They liked that though. Back in COVID, they were like, that was their slogan, wasn't
yeah, right.
it?
We've
Kill your
changed on the
grandma.
whole grandma mortality thing, haven't we?
Sometimes grandma's good, sometimes grandma's bad. Depends on the cookies she makes. You gotta play it
But
by ear.
just the absolute movement on this, and this is absolutely anecdotal, doesn't mean a lot, but in the suburb where I live, we've never seen anything close to a protest. Probably not good sign about where I live. I haven't started them either. So, but the other day I just happened to pass one, just, less than a mile from my house, that had a surprising number of people there. It was a Black Lives Matter
That's great.
protest demonstration, I guess. It wasn't really holding anything up. But it's astounding to me that these are working their ways into corners of the American consciousness that just, don't, even in this state too, there's a town called Ely, Ely, that is way, like, if you look at a map, it's like about as far up as you can be in the northeast of Minnesota without being in Canada, and it's in a very woodsy area. It's just like a cabiny town. They had a
In my
demonstration.
head, a moose is mayor there. That's what I've already decided about this town.
It's it is yeah, the moose to person ratio there is probably pretty high. Yeah, Mayor Moose and
Mm-hmm.
his cops. No, moose are nice. Moose are good.
Are they? Okay, all right.
Actually, I have no way of knowing. I do know that moose are gigantic.
They're massive.
If you've ever seen a moose, like, well, you've probably seen them in a zoo, but if you've seen one in the wild, I happened to see one once. Pretty terrifying. I mean, they're awkward, weird characters, but creatures.
Sure.
And
Sure.
I'm sure there's some characters
Rocky
among
and
them.
Bullwinkle situation, maybe, if that's how you know moose, that's all right. No shame
They're
in
much bigger than Bullwinkle, it turns out.
it.
Anyway, this
Yeah,
town
that
called
ratio
Ely had a Black Lives Matter demonstration, and about 100% of the people there are white. My suburb, it was a mostly white crowd, although we adjoin some areas that are quite a bit more mixed, including my kids' schools. But yeah, and it wasn't just super young people either. I mean, there were some suburban housewives and house dudes.
Yeah, I saw on one of the neighborhood Facebook groups. There is a very, very kind of upscale area right near me. And I had no idea this was taking place until I saw the video of it. But I guess a church must have organized it. It seemed like it was on the church grounds, and it was a whole protest and rally. And I mean, everyone there was definitely over, I don't know, 55, 60, like that. Those were the youngsters in the crowd. Everyone was very much white. And they were they did a full nearly 9 minutes of silence
Mm-hmm.
in honor of George Floyd, and they all kneeled, which was also, I mean, just watching a bunch of old people kneel was already, that was okay, good for them. But there was
your knees. That's what I thought when the
Dems. Yeah, that's what I was like, oh, are they gonna, I wanted to see them get back up, because I was like, how hard is that gonna be? That's kind of what I'm waiting for here.
That
But
one guy, Jerry Nadler, did not kneel. Did you see that? Because I
oh,
think
I didn't.
he's in pretty bad health or something.
Right.
He used to be like 400 pounds, that guy, and he's now just a regular sized person. But what I didn't realize is that he is also like almost Danny DeVito height. Um,
Oh.
so he didn't notice it, but he was standing with
Oh,
the healers and there
so
was no
short.
height differential.
Okay, everybody's got to start where you are, use what you can, do what you use what you have, do what you can. Okay. In the video that I was seeing of these neighborhood, there was also like whoever was the camera person was like scrolling around and it's showing everyone's very respectfully has their head bowed and they're kneeling and then at the end it shows they're all in a circle around a woman who is lying prone position on the concrete with her hands behind her back. So they're like, I suppose, reflecting on the moment. But I mean, the woman was probably 70 in like a flowered church dress with a sun hat. And it was just such a interesting sight because that
Yeah.
was what they chose. And these were people I wouldn't even necessarily think would be on the right side of this at all. So it was just, it was kind of heartening to see that they really were like, it wasn't mere lip service. Now, whether that means they actually are like voting in this way or they're supporting it monetarily or they're doing anything else, I have no idea, but it was still something that was kind of like heartening to see. It's nice. Like, all right, maybe this means like there's enough momentum that we will continue to see changes like some of the stuff I mentioned before. It's possible. It seems possible. Last week I was very like pessimistic and depressed and didn't think anything good, and now I'm starting to be like, all right, we can do this. It's the moment in the second half.
When we talked last week, it would have been hard to reasonably be much else besides that, but that was like I think the first sort of positive thing had just happened when we went to air, which is that the other cops had been arrested.
Right.
But then a whole another couple of days of cops cracking skulls and gassing people and killing people. I mean, it's not mince words.
Right.
But I will say that, do you have any theories of, I don't know how to put this except like theories of change, like why things get a critical mass of people on their side? Because the polling even shows it. It's not just anecdotal. It's like suddenly people who are somewhere between neutral and negative on this issue about Black Lives Matter in general, just very pro cops. Like it's reversing really quickly. And I posted something about this week. It reminds me of the momentum around gay marriage about a decade ago.
Right.
How most politicians, including most of our Democratic heroes, were just like, I don't know. I believe in partnership agreements and all that, but suddenly they
means tested gay marriage.
Oh, too perfect. How it was like suddenly just like an avalanche, like no, and everybody, all the Democrats at least, rushed to get to the head of the parade, find their ways, and most of them were still left behind because they weren't going fast enough. But to hear tell of it today, every one of them was like, the drum major in the front making that happen. And I think we're going to see that in 10 more years about this issue. Like that's case scenario. But at the moment, they're really trying to calibrate it in the safest way possible, while people are like way out ahead of them. So I guess what I'm asking you, as somebody who does more activism than I do, is like, do you have any theories of why things change in that sort of dam breaking way all of a sudden? I mean, it doesn't happen often, but.
No, but I think that's a good way to put it. It is sort of dam breaking. And the reason I think that's a good way to put it is because there's so much that has built up over such a large amount of time before it happens. And I think it's one of those, like, when you hear a lot about like people talking about how they had like artistic success, right? And like it, people who say it took me 15, 20 years to become an overnight success.
Yeah.
Like I think it's that same sort of thing within movements. Like, none of this just started. It's not as though even, on an organizational structural level, like their organization's coming into existence, but activists and organizers have been doing the work on this for, I mean, to say decades is to minimize. It's now we're like at centuries point of work that has been going on this particular singular issue, and on policing of Black communities and Black people, like just that one element of this. And this is now, I think, even grown bigger than that, I'd say, but like that being the focal point of this movement. You know, people have been working so hard on that for so long
with so few decent returns.
Oh, with nothing.
That it's just like heroic to think that people have been toiling in the vineyards all that time, and finally, do you follow on Twitter by any chance? Her name is Miriam Kaba. I hope I'm pronouncing it right, but she goes by Prison Culture.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And I don't know her personally in any way. Sorry, go ahead.
No. I was just saying she's amazing. Yeah. That's it. Yeah, I didn't even know her name because I only really know her from Twitter, so I know her handle.
She is I think she's gone private for a while, which she does periodically because she gets like, you know, just hundreds of trolls.
I can't imagine. Yeah.
I am almost reluctant to say her name because I don't want some idiot person watching this, although, you know, there's probably not that many people watching this who would be unsympathetic to this at this point.
We're going to make it to Breitbart eventually. We're going to get there. That's how we'll know we've made it. Yeah.
That's when I spike the ball.
Uh-huh. I want to be on Tucker Carlson's list of terrible people.
Oh, man. That little fucking weenie.
He's so pathetic.
But she has actually addressed this about what makes things change.
Yeah.
And I think there is I think it's pretty common knowledge in like the decades long activist workers like her who have been in the forefront of especially this issue and prison abolition and stuff like that. And her basic take, and I'm paraphrasing wildly out of memory, but it is like, you don't know when things are going to change. It's not up to you. It's not up to you. You can measure it as you go and see where you're being more effective, but you may die without it ever having happened, or it may happen next week. And that's kind of not the point. The point is to do the work and then make that possible at some point. And it's for somebody like me with no, I don't know, I have a very short attention span on some level, and I'm white, and I've had the privilege of not having to really get down to do this work in so many cases, that it's incredibly inspiring to hear stuff like that and remember, like, all right, when the headlines kind of fade on this, and those of us who have been joining in on Twitter and sending money and showing up to protests get a little bored with it, that's the time when we really have to remember that. It's like, cannot stop the momentum.
No, I mean, that's with all of these movements that seem to suddenly burst forth. I mean, there are just generally generations of people who lived and died working for that movement and for those movements, and have never been recognized and have never been given any sort of due for the amount that they put into moving things forward. And we would never ever be there without all of that completely unrecognized work, which is something it's something that I try to focus on a lot, and I have been since I started doing tax merch and tax work, knowing that, all right, we're putting a name to this and we're moving on this, and we're not the first, but we're continuing this forward, and I can go my whole life and I may never see it change. But I have to know that if I'm putting that work in, maybe my kids, maybe they will see it change. I mean, and maybe I'm completely wrong. Maybe I'll get really lucky on it. Maybe we'll have that sort of moment, but I can't expect it. And I can't use that as the marker of success, because that would be just a constant depressant, and eventually just give up hope and stop, because you wouldn't necessarily see it. But no, and the other thing that I always note on these types of issues is, and this is something that I think it's an area where I kind of get really frustrated with the libs in general, liberals. I don't know if you know that occasionally I get a little frustrated with some of the people who are
I heard of this and I'm
cynical.
outraged.
I mean, I know we're all
I
on the
mean,
same side.
are you even a Democrat?
Wanna be?
Oh man, it's been a rough 5 years, hasn't it?
I, yeah, at least I would.
Yeah.
We could
I'm
start there.
just talking about that specific back and
Oh
forth of
God, no, it's
like
been terrible. It's been terrible.
progressive Democrat
But like,
infighting.
there's this expectation for like there's so many people who just want that leadership to like, and they believe that they're going to elect someone with these like visions who are going to just they're going to move everything forward, and we're all going to like walk behind them like, you know, happy little ducklings, I don't know, like.
Mm-hmm.
And that can happen, it's happened here and there, but like far more often it is people amassing and deciding that things need to change and building up a huge momentum and then forcing leaders to fucking scramble after it for votes. Like that's
Oh God,
really what
yes.
normally happens. So like the idea when we see like of just these sort of putting Democratic politicians up on some sort of pedestal, like look at everything they've done, when for the most part it's usually like look at them fucking trying to chase behind what we're already doing and like
Right.
try and like scramble to be like, oh, I'm part of it. Like, go fuck yourself.
Yeah.
But you know,
How can I attach myself enough to these numbers and this momentum without fucking up my donor list? I
and
mean,
so much of
I
it,
am more beyond, you know, I probably don't have to tell you this, but I'm beyond cynical about this, or skeptical might be but you know, after so many decades of seeing this, it's like, I think you're being almost too generous to say that it ever happens. I can think of here and there, but even those people usually came, like politicians who actually like came in with a meaningful agenda that started changing things out of the gate, or at least changing the conversation. They're like unicorns. And I think
yeah.
the only ones I can think of are like Paul Wellstone here, the late great Senator Paul Wellstone. He came out of the activist community, and it was a
You,
great fluke that he was elected at all. And so he was already speaking that language, and he was already on board with a lot of it. And then, you know, um,
you've mentioned Paul Wellstone so much, you'd think that I would like have taken just one moment to like look up Paul Wellstone.
oh, okay. Sorry. I
And
forget
yet I haven't.
sometimes that time moves on fast, and he was a local hero before he was any sort of a national presence, and he really never had time to be that much of a national presence. But yeah, I mean, he was probably the closest thing to a Bernie type movement or
Okay.
something like before that. And
I was
he
gonna
was
say, unless that was like Prince's other name, like that's pretty much all I know that came out of Minnesota. We're kicked there on my knowledge.
all right. Well, you have your homework. No, it is not homework. The sacred vow of this little video cast is that we never have to prepare. We just, so anyway, the whole idea of things change. I think you have it exactly right. I mean, I think it's like people prepare this ground, and then you have to drag politicians kicking and screaming, and sometimes you just have to drag them kicking and screaming and throw them out a window and be done with them. I mean, that's where I'm at with most of them. And that leads me to something I wanted to just recount on that score about my little week here. I'm getting into it with my congressman. He's a guy.
Okay.
He's a Democratic congressman. His name is Dean Phillips, and he was elected here in just in 2018 after a Republican whose name I've already erased from memory had
As
sat in
it
that
should
seat
be.
for a really long time and got increasingly worse. But there's a special breed of Minnesota Republican from like the past couple of decades who play like the Democrats and Republicans play nice with each other, and ostensibly like we're all on the same page. We just have like
Yeah.
different budgets or something like that. But secretly, a lot of those guys have been playing the same affable character while getting Trumpier. And this guy was one of them. So I think people just finally took a long look at him and said, what the hell are we doing here? my district is a district that Hillary Clinton won in 2016. So it's not like it
Okay.
is super red. It's purpley, and probably trending more blue than red at this point.
Hmm.
But Dean Phillips, this guy won. And do you
Every time you
remember?
say his name, I'm sorry, I just assume he's like a 25-year-old star on the CW. It's just like it's such a very like he's like
He's a
in the
skateboarder
Supernatural
and
spinoff or something. I don't know.
he's a
All right,
white rapper.
very specific type of name. Okay, so
Well,
yes,
it's like, the spirit of it is not so far off. I mean, the guy is probably in his early 50s or 51. He's a very youthful looking guy. I'm
okay,
trying to make this concise, but the thing that triggered me, I was triggered, yes, was you probably saw the video of Jacob Fry, our mayor.
oh yeah.
There was a couple of choice pieces of video from him this week.
Speaking of youthful looking people, I looked up his age because I was like, why do you have a 21-year-old mayor? Like he just looked like a little baby, like flopping through that
Yeah.
crowd. But he's
Yeah,
apparently
he is. I mean, he's youthful looking for his age, but he is young.
he's
I
young.
mean,
Yeah,
he was some like tech bro or something who just squeaked in there.
cool.
And
Cool.
he's ridiculous. He's terrible. There were two pieces of video with Jacob Fry this one week. One was when he stupidly showed up for a Black Lives Matter defund the police rally, and then he got his ass handed to him, and then he had to
Yeah.
do like a walk of shame with the cameras tracking him because he didn't agree with their protest. With
What
like
I
one of the
loved was how
activists,
many cameras were trailing him. There are like 25 different viewpoints of just watching
like,
him like scumper away, like
buddy,
sad.
what were you hoping to accomplish here? Unless you came down and announced, "I'm disbanding the police, defund the police." Like there is
Right.
no win for you here. But anyway,
But he has an app. Go on.
he he also had a much mocked, at least locally, and kind of made a lot of people mad. Thing of him at a service for George Floyd, kneeling down and breaking down in tears, like just breaking down, and people were saying, "Jesus Christ, like hold it together. Don't be so performative. Don't make the family
Right.
comfort you." And I don't know if that's fair or not. I think it is.
I think
But
it
I
is if
also,
it's not like if you care that much, then I assume you've got a lot of and you care that much and you have power, then I assume you're using that to like make meaningful change. Then I believe that you actually are crying because you're very upset. If you are seem to have that much care, but you're like not doing anything about it, then maybe you don't really care. You're just very, very good at crying, which congratulations. I'm sure that comes in handy on your CW role.
well, you're exactly right. I mean, and I haven't followed his moves on this issue in great detail, except to know that activists are not happy with him, and they haven't been for the
Yeah.
longest time. They like not the worst possible choice of mayor, given that would be a Republican
Right.
probably, but he's
Only
really
by a
come
little.
up short after like time after time, and his reaction to this has been very contrite, and but it is that performative shit, and it
Hmm.
was really off-putting in a visceral way for me. It was just like, come on, like don't hog the grief space here, mayor.
Yeah.
Really, like I don't know
Yeah.
how else to put it, and I'm trying to
No.
like investigate myself, say, why is it something about men crying and how like not really, because I don't really have a problem with that in the appropriate circumstances, but this is like the family was there and activists were there and people knew him were there. It's like, don't you make a big blubbery mess of yourself. That's my honest reaction.
No, I
Yeah.
I fully and I believe that's coming from all the best places and is not just sort of like this crazy waspian sort of we don't show emotion like situation. I think you're motivated by all the right reasons.
This is all I wanted to do the podcast for, is to get that affirmation time and again.
I'm
Anyway,
here
I am
for you.
telling a long-winded story, and I'll try to connect it a little quicker. But my congressman, the aforementioned Dean Phillips,
Right.
skateboarder and white rapper, he actually had a similar thing this week, where we're basically he talked to the families of some Black men and women who have been killed by the cops, and I guess he they gave him, or he took the mic and he made a speech where he was crying quite a bit and telling everybody that they loved him. And I tweeted mentioning his name in pretty sharp and insulting way because it was connected to the Jacob Fry thing. And he came back at me on Twitter. And this guy barely tweets at all. They're all anodyne, like press conference-y things, and was mad. The hoe was mad at me. And then he basically said, "How dare you, like, this tweet sickens me," was his language. This is my congressman. And then he came,
what did you say to him? I really want to see. I'm very excited.
I wish I had it here, but
I want to sicken a congressman. You have to teach me how.
I think it has to do with being a 900-pound gorilla in a not super big district here that I basically have Twitter followers. I don't think it goes beyond that. I don't even know if the guy knows who I am. But I did like work to put him in office a little bit.
Right.
Like I knew mutual names in common with him. Like one of his political directors' first campaign was the one who drafted me to perform at an event, getting rid of the previous guy.
Yeah.
So I did have some bona fides to throw at him. It's like, all right. Then he slid into my DMs. He literally did. And he wrote a big lecture-y thing about, here's all the black people I know and can vouch for me. And how dare you? So
why did I just hear that to the "Here's all the Daves I know" like song? It's just oh my gosh.
Here are all the Daves I know.
that's I see him now performing this as a "Here's all the black people I know."
Not far off.
Oh my gosh.
And he is somewhat in the vein of that Jacob Fry guy. He's a rich kid, like absolutely rich, comes from Phillips Distillery, which I think makes really shitty liquor, but it's basically vodka and stuff like that. Like that is.
I mean, I'll try it.
Yeah, well, hell, I'm an alcoholic, but that was kind of my go-to place was cheap liquor. And he is currently, and he made himself even richer. More power to him. Do you know Talenti ice cream and gelato? He was one of the business partners that started that. It's terrible. It sucks.
Wow. Vodka
my wife was an ice cream
gelato.
maker. And no, he's also the nephew of Dear Abby, like the literal Dear Abby. So the guy comes from money.
Oh,
and
wow.
He's just one of those
opinionated money.
The more I looked into him, the more I see that he is like he started like he marketed himself as an alternative to the previous guy, the Republican. Fair enough. He did a lot of let's start the conversation, let's get the conversation, like all that kind of like non-committal, everybody has a part in this conversation kind of thing. I mean, that was his branding. And he had a little bus that he, drove around in, or a little truck or something, where he'd sit down and have conversations with people. But he's really kind of a third way Democrat. I mean, and he's part of this like business dude Democrat group
I hate them so much.
I hate them so much. And I've decided I am just going to make an enemy, like a further enemy of this guy. And maybe he might ignore me, but I do have the local Village Voice here, like the Village Voice, the late great Village Voice, but one of their offshoots, the City Pages, is still in existence here. And they asked me, hey, are you willing to talk about Dean Phillips's DMs? And I think my answer is going to be yes now. Because I saw last night that he is like, they're starting this basic like debt thing again. So he's a bunch of he and a bunch of Democrats are co-signing like we can't increase
he's
the
one
debt.
of them.
Yeah.
I want to bully your congressman.
I'm going to bully the fuck out of him.
I want to bully him. I'm happy to let's do a campaign
here. Come on up here and bully him with me.
I can bully him right from this bedroom here. This very fancy room in which I record, which I got called out on Twitter. You have congressmen slipping into your DMs. I had someone slip into mine being like, "Are you in a bedroom?" I'm like, "Yes, I'm sitting on a bed. Yep, that's the only door I can shut." That's
how were they born last week? Have they seen where people are doing Zoom calls from?
I don't know. It wasn't cruel. I think it was more just like it was said in like, oh, I understand,
Yeah.
I'm like that too, but I think that they thought that they were catching me in something.
Let me
Like, no,
let me
it's
just
like
show you
it's
what's
an
real
actual
here.
bed. It's like
There's a bed right behind me there.
I'm sitting on the bed. That's why it bounces sometimes. I don't even have a chair. This is the level I'm at here. I'm very sorry to like veer off there, but I am so excited.
No, I said
about
enough.
this,
That was a very long-winded story with a
no,
lot of.
I'm thrilled about it. These people need to be bullied, and it sounds as though he's probably gone through his whole life without ever like facing any sort of challenge whatsoever. So it's important that he hear a dissenting voice, especially if he's going to have the gall to slip in your DMs to to wag
I
his
told him,
finger
look,
at you.
I am not doing this in private. Like, I'm not your friend.
Mm-hmm.
You know, we're doing this in public, and next time you do this thing, I'm just gonna drag it back in there anyway. So like, let's
I
talk,
can't.
buddy.
The
He is one of those guys. Like he leads with affability. I think it's even in
sure.
his Twitter bio that he's like, I'm a nice guy who listens to everybody. I'm really into the word bipartisan. I really want to make this work. I'm the first Democrat elected here in a long time, but I respect Republicans and all that. And it's like, all right, you be you, but you don't get to be affable while cutting Social Security and Medicare and then have nobody call you on it. Like, that's kind of where I'm at. It's like, I don't care if this guy likes me. I don't care if anybody likes me at this point. It's, I would prefer it, but if this congressman has to, block me or whatever, I kind of feel like more people need to just risk calling their congressman a bitch to like,
Yeah.
just like give them no respect and keep coming at them until they are forced. Because this guy showed me he had a very thin skin, and he really does not respond well to being called out. And so I'm just going to do more of it.
That's fantastic.
Because it's the only lever I have. I can't affect
right.
Trump. I can't really get to Nancy Pelosi. I can maybe get to this guy a little bit.
No, it's incredibly important. We have given far too much deference to people for far too long who in no way deserve it, and not nearly enough deference to those who actually have been doing work and do deserve our paying attention and our listening. We've been, we collectively, not everyone certainly, but a lot of us have put the attention in all the wrong places. So I think it's far past time to call your congressperson a bitch. Absolutely. But the debt though, the fact that there are this group of Democrats who want to like bring that up in this moment is like, I don't want to scream. I don't want to hurt anyone's ears who may be listening, but just imagine, just in your head, picture just screaming, or you can kind of summon that up. But
if
like,
you want to go slightly off mic, oh wait, you have a clipped mic, so you can't go. But I will
it follows me.
I will assume you've done a primal scream.
Yeah, no, it's happening.
As soon as we hang up, you really ought to do a real one, because that's building up.
That's all I do all day. Scream and cry and scream and cry. It's fantastic. But I do it off camera, like I wait for those moments.
Unlike our mayor, who screams and cries and wails for the
rends their clothes. Yes, the whole deal.
I'm the saddest person in the room.
That's right. That's right. The thing that is crazy to me with the debt people is that we are in a movement right now where the rallying call is defund the police. And the broader cry is demilitarizing the country, like, defunding the police. That's a state, local sort of issue. Federally, we have lots of demilitarization to do. These are massive budget line points. So if you have if that's the thing you have to do for whatever dumb fucking stupid reason you want to go towards the debt, it better only be to say, and here's this great thing, here's where we can do that. We can just slash budgets here, which I wouldn't be on board with that either. Like, that's also bullshit. Talking about the debt is absurd and insane. We need to take all of that money and we need to invest it. But nonetheless, if that were for some reason your one stupid fucking issue, then it better be hand in hand with, like, that's why we no longer will have a military presence in however many fucking countries we're in. I know. Idea. Like, that's why we're not going to be buying any new big giant fucking planes that will fall apart. Like that's where you need to go with that.
Right. Right. And yeah, it is surreal. Like that actually, nothing much surprises me at this point, but to see that a coalition of, it was like 30 something.
I feel like it was 50 even.
Was it?
I feel like it was.
Yeah, but
My anger
it
maybe
was
exaggerating
enough.
it.
It
I'm
was
not sure.
enough. And they were all Democrats, and they were like, or was it bipartisan?
Uh,
Bipartisan.
okay, no, wait, it's 30 Dems, but it probably is more than bipartisan, but 30 Democrats at least.
Okay. But the fact that they are even going near that after coronavirus just, wiped out everybody's means of getting by. Not everybody's, of course, but so many people. And they just signed on to all these aid packages to their donors. It's just like, you are psychopaths. I mean, it's not.
That's right.
How can I respect somebody who does that?
No,
How
that's
can I
absolutely
say,
right.
let's join the conversation? I'll join the conversation with my boot in your ass. I mean, that's about all I'm willing to do at this point.
It's absolutely insane. And like in their letter as well, they're even like pointing towards unemployment and like they're mentioning things that are affecting people's immediate lives. People are out of work. And the idea that you would even like start there and be like, here's the problem. The solution must be, I don't know, help people. That's the fucking solution. Help people. But they're like, no, what if the solution were we looked at a bunch of imaginary numbers and then we like played around with them and in order to do that we just cut anything that would help people. Like it's I actually try to figure out like what that comes from, because I mean it just outright seems fucking evil, right? Like to me it's just like, there's something really like sick about you. But I think it's just this like, it comes from this place of wanting to be called a grown-up. Like I feel as though it's like basically just babies desperate to prove that they're grown-ups, like, and they're gonna do it however they can. And this was the thing that they were told as kids, like, well, mature responsible adults have a balanced budget, and like they like grabbed onto it, and now they are desperate to be like, I'm not a little kid, I'm a big kid, I care about the debt. Like that's the only thing I can even like parse psychologically as to why this would be a driving issue for a person.
I think you are absolutely right, but I think it's more, and I think it probably varies. The mix varies for each person, but I think what you said is a big part of it. But I also do think when you said they're evil, I have to say, like there is something to the fact that I don't think enough of these types of politicians of either party have the integrity to say where they're really coming from. In the case of a guy like Dean Phillips, he's such an anodyne, pleasant little open-faced guy that in part, like, I want to give him the credit and say, well, that's the problem. He just thinks he's being a grown-up. But no, I mean, he's a businessman. He's a very wealthy guy. And I have to believe that he is, consciously or not, just defending the wealthy, that he is as part of his tribe.
You're right.
And his own investments. I think it's perfectly fair to say, what interest do you have in this? What self-interest do you have in this? Because that puts them up against, I don't, I was like, well, no, like, how are you going to benefit from this? Are you voting for your own pocketbook? Let's hear it. Say
the
no,
other thing. I mean,
and then we can do the math.
Right. That's the thing too. That's amazing with this sort of statement right now, and coming from fucking Dems. And granted, many, I don't know, I didn't go through, I don't know how many of them were elected as of 2018 and are newer, but certainly there are those who are signing on to letters like this who were around in 2017 when the Republicans, Trump, Mitch McConnell, the GOP passed that Tax Cuts and Jobs Act, which was a huge, huge, huge tax cut for the rich, and did terrible things to the debt, like just absolutely, completely unbalanced any sort of budget. And nobody was screaming about it then. Like the deficit wasn't a word that was being thrown around then. No one seemed to give a fuck. So like, again, here's another thing. If that's what really is driving you and you really care about, reverse all that shit. Like, and in fact, go further. Take away all those tax cuts for the wealthy and raise from previously where we were before what their
Amen,
tax rates
sister.
were. Like,
I mean, that
there's
to
a
me,
simple answer.
those are the low-hanging fruit answers. If you're even pretending to be even adjacent to a room with
Right.
some progressives in it, it's like
Right.
the very obvious things. Reverse that. Cut the military. I mean, plenty of money right there, buddy. You're fine. You don't have to go
super
near
basic.
Social Security. And then there are much deeper and like not deeper, but there are much more detailed answers. I'm not particularly conversant in deficit debt stuff. You probably are more so because you've dealt with the tax issue.
That's like saying you're conversant in like poltergeist. It's like, I mean, no, you know, whatever. Like, there's a couple of people who claim they really know what's going on there, but like, it's mostly just bullshit. Someone captured something on camera one time and now everybody points to it. It's like that basically with this stuff. It really is. That's my.
I am aware vaguely. I have no, like, I'm a dum-dum when it comes to economics, admittedly, and I'm not that interested. I wish I were more because that really, it's where the rubber hits the road for a lot of this stuff. But there is a theorist, an economist named Stephanie Kelton. Have you heard of her? Who's
the name I have? Yeah.
She is becoming more. She's more and more talked about these days, to use Trump's fucking stupid convention thing. But she is basically saying, and I know other people have said this before, but she's basically saying all of the deficit shit is completely bogus, like completely bogus.
It is.
Like it's modern monetary theory, and I could not explain it to you, but I know that basically it's like you are a country. I almost fell into it myself. I said company. You are a country with your own money print, like you print your own money. You pay for the things you need, and I don't know. But a lot of people are saying, just this makes a lot of sense. Why do we keep doing this austerity thing? And at this point, anybody who gets into public office who hasn't at least batted that around and come up with a better answer than like, oh, we better watch the debt, is like a moral monster in my mind.
Well, I mean, when we talk about the economy in general, and this is like, I mean, this is all stuff I've learned within the past couple of years, but being just, and I always kind of came from that place of like, who knows, I didn't study this, and I'm sure that there are very smart people in charge talking very intelligent things. And then I started actually reading the stuff going, oh no, this is not intelligent, this isn't smart. How the fuck does anyone let any of this get past anything? It's insane. Mm-hmm. It's so much of it is so easily broken apart. Like the moment you give it just an ounce of scrutiny, it's crazy. But there's, it exists in this world of like jargon and important schooling and all of these sort of things to try and keep people out. But like, you're not an economics idiot. You're as smart as just about anyone out there. You just aren't necessarily using the words and publishing in the right places to get the attention for it. But like, so much of it is utter bullshit. And like, so much of the theories of these things work in like just in theory. Like they're so based on the ideas of like, well, people will continue working only to a certain point, and then they don't care. Like they'll max out. Like there's just so many things that completely dismiss human psychology and human history like entirely, and just only work in this like very particular computer model that if we assume everyone is this robot who does exactly this and makes their choices based entirely on very rational things, and they have everything very calculated, and they're motivated entirely by percentage points, and like then this is how the economy works. Like so much of our theory comes from that sort of like absurd blueprint that is drawn up of just absolute like robots, really, and has no basis in
like dumb
human
robots.
Existence. Like really specific robots, like Roombas, basically. Like, oh, you have one function, like that's it. You only are in this space, and you just go back and forth. Like that's not how people work. It's not like it's insane to me.
I don't know if you were like you might be a little young to remember Alan Greenspan. Do you know who he is?
I am familiar with Alan
He
Greenspan.
was
You
the,
hit a
oh
name I
God,
know.
I'm going to embarrass myself because I don't remember exactly what his title was. Oh, I think he was the Federal Reserve Board guy. But again, when we're getting into monetary, like economic and monetary stuff, I
Yeah.
embarrass myself quickly. I just know that he
No,
was
he
a
was the
guy.
chair of the Federal Reserve. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
But he used to go in front of Congress periodically, and he was treated like and I think they even like were calling him like the Oracle, like every
Yeah.
word in his mouth was from Olympus about stuff, and he was
Hmm.
basically a Milton Friedman type, like very supply side
Yeah.
economics guy. And then it turned out he was 100% wrong about everything. And he was still getting deference long after that. And
Oh
the
yeah.
only one, to his credit, whoever really called him out in any significant way was our boy Bernie, who basically, and this was like well before he ran for president, was just saying like, what are you basing this shit on? And the guy has, he just had that kind of, academic, oh, this guy can't be wrong. Look at him. He's a guy with glasses. He's old, and he has these terms. I don't know what to say except like,
Yeah. No, I've definitely come to the conclusion that economics is astrology for rich white men. Like, it's just pure speculative, like, today
oh,
the dollar is in Aquarius. So like that's
yeah.
how they operate. It's
The
insane.
market's feeling kind of nervous. Don't alarm the market.
That's right. Oh gosh, you
The
cannot
market's
spook
gonna bite you.
the market spooks a lot. It gets very
Yeah.
spooked. It is a very jittery market.
It's like, it's like a dog that is in a lightning storm or something.
That's exactly right. It's ridiculous. And I can't stand it. And I hate it because it's used as this like bludgeoning tool to just keep people completely out of the conversation and try and like monopolize. They love monopolies. Just monopolize the
Horrible
entire
game,
discourse.
by the way. Don't you agree?
Monopoly? Oh my
Yeah.
gosh. It's
Are your kids old enough to play it, or have you played it with them?
so we own like the kids Monopoly, and I've played it a couple of times, and then during the pandemic I pulled it out again. I was like, oh, I have to kill like 5 hours, let's play Monopoly. And this is the last time we did it because they just hit a point where like my 8-year-old was like, but I have all the money. and and I was like, yeah, you're winning, you're gonna win. He was like, well, no, here. And he kept giving it to his brother who had no money, and he was like,
bless his heart.
yeah, no. And then I was like, well, I'm going to lose. Like, I'm hoping the game will end. So I'm like, okay, well, I have no money. I'm going to lose. No, I have lots of money. You don't have money. I'm going to give you money. And I kept being like, that's not how you play the game. And they're like, well, the game is stupid. This is ridiculous. If I have money, why wouldn't I give it to people who don't have money? And I was like, oh, I love you, but I just want the game to be over.
Sweet little Eugene Debs Jr.
I mean, but Monopoly was, of course, like created to teach that lesson. It was created actually to prove that capitalism is terrible and to sort of show that.
Was it really? I actually don't know the history.
Yeah. Monopoly was actually started like fully. I think that the individual, I think it was a she, was like a socialist, and it was meant to like teach this moral lesson of like, look how terrible this is. And then instead we went with like, yay, this is fun, let's all play it and get mad at our family members.
I own all of Atlantic City.
Right. It was fully...
I didn't know there was Monopoly. I guess I should have. We started playing real Monopoly with our kids when they were probably where your kids are at now, and it was fun for a little bit. But it eventually, what you do learn about Monopoly is there's a point at which somebody does have all the money.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody is just like hanging on by thread and should be out of the game. But then the game goes on for 3 or 4 more hours after that, and everybody gets mad at each other, and it's boring. And we eventually looked at each other in this house and said, none of us likes this, right? Good.
Growing up, like when my brother and I would play, and now that I like looking back, this is kind of interesting, but I didn't think of anything over the time. There would always come a point where my brother and I would be playing, and one person would be at that place where they just have all the money and it's going to go on forever. And in that moment, especially if it was my brother who was losing, suddenly, like, he would turn off all the lights and either flip the board, I guess, destroy all property, basically, or like come and steal my money. Like eventually there would be a point where he would just like devolve into violence because the game was so rigged against him, which again, like, wow, I never really actually recognized what was going on there, but that's how every game of Monopoly ended for me as a child. It was just like, fuck this shit. Like light it all on fire.
Probably the best lesson from Monopoly. Like, yeah, that's what it comes down to a lot of the time. Somebody knocks the board over and takes the money.
Right, like that is the actual end of the majority of Monopoly games, and we all somehow failed to recognize that was a really big lesson that we were learning and never really taking in.
Yeah. Well done, woman who first started this, whoever you are.
Yeah, she got there eventually, or I think it was a woman. Oh gosh, I hope it was. It is now. Screw it. I'm going to rewrite history.
This is not a J.K. Rowling space here. We don't have to spread about that shit.
Oh my God, is she terrible?
Yeah.
Sorry, she's on my list.
I don't know what I feel like other people have covered it. I'm not that, like, we did Harry Potter movies for Riff Tracks. I never want to see another one again for that reason alone. But have you guys done Gone with the Wind? I meant to ask. Sorry. What's that?
Have you done Gone with the Wind?
No, we haven't done that many quote unquote classic movies. We've done a few of them just to sort of like do it as an experiment. It's like, what if we did a good or classic movie like Casablanca? We actually did. You know, where you take away the premise of it. Like, it's not a bad movie. We just have to make jokes around it, see if it works as a funny commentary track.
Right.
But no, I remember seeing Gone with the Wind years ago, and like, it's repulsive, but it, you know, admittedly impressive cinematography, I guess, or stuff for the time, but that's it. I mean, it's awful. I mean, it just tells a false story, and it's kind of boring, dude. I mean, it's sort of a boring movie.
Yeah, it's very long. When I was a kid, I read the book actually, and because I was that kind of an annoying kid, and so then I hated the movie because the book is like just much bigger in scope. And, yeah. I mean, what are the differences? Are there any? Oh, well, I mean, like,
if you recall,
because it's all about Scarlett O'Hara's life, and so like the book, there's just whole portions. Like, she goes back to Ireland and has children, and like there's like whole in the middle.
Back to Ireland? What do you mean?
Yeah. Well, that's where like her family is. I don't know.
Oh,
like all this. Yeah.
I didn't know that at all.
No one does, because it's who fucking read the book? Like, only the dumbest, nerdiest kid who just, I don't know why I did it, but I did. And so then the movie, I was like, oh, this is bullshit. It's like, because I wasn't following the narrative structure that I knew from the book. But you know, the movie itself, like, okay, it's, I don't know. There's good to be said about it. Obviously, lots of criticism and commentary, and you know, putting it in its place in time and recognizing what it was and how it fit in there. But like, the conservatives getting mad that it's off of HBO Max is just hilarious to me. I love it so
Max,
much.
which started like 3 days ago, so who cares? First of all,
but no one has this service. Like, no one knows what it is.
I have about 18 HBO channels already. I don't need another one. But beyond that, I also feel like, I mean, maybe it's clumsily done. Like, why this movie and not that movie? I don't know, because there are stupid executives making these decisions, and they're panicking and doing the first thing that comes to mind. And you know what?
Right.
Who cares?
I mean, it's almost like I almost sort of enjoy it just because it's like pissing off like Megyn Kelly so much. Like, it's almost just good. Just good. Give you something to fucking like scream about, you know, while you're sitting there telling black kids they can't have Santa. Like,
or Jesus. Unless they look like they're from Austria or something.
She's just such a terrible person.
She's a horrible person.
She's so terrible that anything that makes her unhappy makes me just a little bit happy.
She really needs to be unhappy for the rest of her life. But the thing is, there seemed like, I just feel like they keep representing her and stop trying to make Megyn Kelly happen, to quote her. Like, it's just, she had a show that absolutely fucking tanked, like horrible ratings, to quote Trump. But it's like it, and then they paid her out like,
oh God, I don't want
dollars.
Yeah.
And now she has another show happening. It's like,
does she? What network? I don't even.
I think NBC.
Sure, of course, yeah. I mean, she's a pretty thin white woman, like, you know. And she puts a Y right there in her name. Like, I mean, you got to give her something for that, right? Like, that's worth a couple million right there.
That's true. I like her now.
A white woman with a Y where there should be an A is like, oh.
Revolutionary.
Yeah, no, she's doing something. She's important. She's the cultural voice we need.
We are at about an hour and 5 minutes. Anything else? Oh, I wanted to tell you what I've been up to. This is like, I really needed a distraction this week, and it's like I gotta get off Twitter for like a half hour at least.
Did you do it? You got off Twitter for a half hour? Yeah. I saw you say you were going to. Yeah, like, I saw at least one tweet, and then I feel like I saw another tweet not too long after that.
The theory there is that if I say it out loud, I'll have to commit to it.
Accountability, sure.
But it's not true. I break through all that stuff again and again. Then I see then I see a bunch of, chunky police guys from Long Island whining in there, and I have to. So yeah, that doesn't work.
You weren't expecting your congressman to slip into your DMs, like.
But I also don't feel like I have the concentration to read a book these days, which should really be good because I used to read them and like them. But what I did. My son and I were checking out the grocery store, and I have a visual aid here because it's right here. And I saw this, which was The Genius of Dogs. I think you're getting a backwards image there, probably. But...
No, for me, I'm seeing it. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, no, that's right.
And it's basically just like a deep dive into how the minds of dogs works, and something just like I had to grab it. And my son was like, that's $15. That's like, wow, that's a real ripoff. That's like, and I was like, I want it anyway. And it's just like, I realized the presences in our house that have really been calming in any way in this are our two dogs who are just, they're in their own world. And I kind of want to know, like, what makes them.
What is their world?
And it really is like, oops, sorry. I got a call. It is it's just very easy reading, and it talks about how they descended from wolves and all that other stuff. And
what else have you learned? I want to know.
Okay, they descended from wolves.
Okay, check.
That's it. No, that most of the dogs that we know today have popped up in the last couple hundred years. Like,
oh yeah.
Like just geometrically different, and they have like the most variation in any kind of animal in the world. What else? Oh, that evolutionarily they developed eyebrows and stuff that basically shows human emotions to kind of meet our need to see it. That's the theory, anyway.
We're so terrible.
Because if you look
we're forcing a way that other animals actually adapt to demand
on our terms.
That's right.
Yeah, if you look at it that way, then.
Oh, sorry. I went with humans being
monstrous.
Terrible, not dogs being fantastic.
What? I started the podcast like absolutely
destroying my attention,
pissing on everything positive you said. So turnabout is fair play.
Dogs, man.
What have they ever done for us?
Bullshit.
Anyway,
except for the ones that wear the little barrel around their neck and then go out in the snow. Those they seem good.
Yep, like they bring you rum. Is there anything interesting you've been reading, watching besides Twitter?
Oh gosh.
If the answer is no, I totally get it.
It's my whole world. But I will say, because last week I was telling you I was doing the science experiments with my son, and we were doing rubber egg bigger than before.
Bigger than before.
Bigger than before. It didn't work. It did not work. It just was just an egg that collapsed. So we tried it again as of this morning and left it in the vinegar for 2 days. You're only supposed to need to 12 to 24 hours. Still didn't fucking work. It's all lies. I don't know what Big Egg is trying to tell you, but it's just propaganda, bullshit, and lies. It did not work at all, and I'm very upset. So
is it done with a raw egg? Theoretically,
that's what I thought.
Oh yeah, and the whole shell becomes kind of like
it's supposed to it's supposed to suck in, I suppose, the vinegar and then dissolve the shell and create this sort of rubbery consistency. And the first time it didn't do it at all. The second it started to flake off and then just cracked open, and then it was just a raw egg that you could fry in a pan. There was nothing of any. It was really disappointing. So also, if anybody has any I don't know, weird science experiments that actually work that an 8-year-old would like, please let me know, because
Are your kids
that was
into
a
that?
disappointment. Yeah, they were really excited. They were like,
Aw.
they were really excited.
Give
No, I
those
mean, it
kids
was
an
like,
egg that's bigger than before, you bastards.
no, I had to have like, we had a lot of conversations about like the scientific process and how,
Science is
Einstein probably
lies,
didn't
honey.
cry, did he? Like, like, I'm sure that, we have to take breaths, deep breaths, and try again and note this down in our journal. And, I don't know. I made up lots
You're
of
gonna
things.
raise kids who are like pro alchemy soon. Like science is bullshit. Transmute base metals into gold. That's
I'm
where
going to
it's
raise
at.
kids who are going to believe in economies. So they're going to be like, this is where it's really at. You just make shit up and tell people that's real.
It's a good racket.
Yeah, well, they're going to be white men eventually. So yeah, they'll be able to pull it off.
Well, Maura, always a delight to chat with you.
You too. Thanks for talking to me.
Yeah, and one of the, I thought one of the cool things I like about this is the turnaround time. I really loved doing my podcast last year, but it was like
great.
a couple of days to a couple of weeks before people would hear them. This is
Right.
like, this will be up in an hour, so it's ripped from the headlines.
Fresh, piping hot Corbett.
Rage, piping hot rage from Maura and Bill. All right, have a good week. I hope you find an experiment. If I can, you know what? Why don't we ask on Twitter
if anybody knows of experiments that we can do?
Or will that inundate you with, horrible people?
Oh, they're already there. It doesn't matter.
Okay.
I block and mute so frequently. It's fine. Try me.
Okay. Have a good week.
You too. Talk to you next week. Bye.